Hey friends, welcome back to the Train Cafe. My name is Tamaki, and this is a cozy, safe space for creatives, book and movie lovers, and for sensitive souls. I actually can't really believe it myself, but we are almost at the end of 2025, and I was thinking about the fact that I found so many new favorite books and new favorite movies this year. So I thought that today I want to share some of my favorite books and movies of 2025. Basically, this is going to be a long, chatty video. It's almost 4 p.m. and it gets dark at around 4:20 here in Germany right now. So I think it's gonna be dark. I hope that you enjoy this kind of cozy setup with the lights. I have a peppermint tea today. I'm not actually that much of a peppermint tea person. However, lately, for some reason, I've been drinking a lot of peppermint tea. And I'm really enjoying it lately. I don't know if it's the season, but yeah. I literally got this idea like 5 minutes ago, but I have this very cute deck of frog affirmations, and I thought that maybe if I think of it, I can pull. Why is my voice cracking? I thought that maybe I could pull a little affirmation card at the beginning of the video. This is just for entertainment purposes, but maybe you'll get a cute little message or affirmation for the day. I am on my own timeline. I will not compare my journey to anyone else's. Funnily enough, I was just talking about something like this literally 10 minutes ago. So maybe this is just a message for me, but I don't know. I just thought that if it resonates with anyone out there, just know that you're on your own path and that is a good thing. And it's your unique path. Don't ever feel like you're behind. Maybe I'll actually start doing it. Let me know. But anyways, we're here to talk about books and movies today. I'm just going to start talking about my favorite books of 2025, kind of in no particular order. These are 4-star or 5-star reads, books that have really stayed with me throughout the year and that I would totally recommend. Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. Okay, first of all, this edition is gorgeous. I actually got it gifted for Christmas, I think a year ago. I really like Dracula. What? I really like Dracula by Bram Stoker, so I've always wanted to read Carmilla. Carmilla is a classic that inspired Dracula. So there's a castle in Austria where Laura lives with her father, and they take in a girl named Carmilla who got into a crash near their castle. And Laura and Carmilla have a very, very deep bond and friendship, but Carmilla kind of starts acting very strange. Here it says, predating Dracula by 26 years, Carmilla is the original vampire story steeped in sexual tension and gothic romance. I just honestly love this so much. It's a very short book, so you can actually read it in one sitting. I think I read it in 1 or 2 sittings, something like that. I like gothic stories in general, so maybe it was that as well, but I enjoyed the writing in this so much. It's kind of like, I feel like you do have to read it through the lens of knowing that this predates Dracula and a lot of vampire stories, so there's a lot that's left to the imagination, which I personally really enjoyed, and I just really enjoyed honestly the relationship between Laura and Carmilla. Towards the end, it got kind of more crazy than I thought, and I mean, if I were to write the story now, I wouldn't end it that way, but knowing that it's a very old story, I'm like, okay, it kind of is what it is. So I'd say this is just an iconic book, honestly. If you're into vampires, anything like that, I feel like this is a must read. Another favorite of mine this year has been Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is a fantasy, I think, trilogy. I think it's 3 books, a fantasy series, kind of romantasy vibes about fairies. It's about Emily Wilde, who's a professor, and she researches fairies. And she goes to a very remote island somewhere in the north, like a very, very cold island, and researches the hidden ones. kind of a darker species of fairies. It's written as journal entries, which I personally really like. This book is just such a cozy, fun read. I read it in springtime, but this is also perfect for the wintertime, by the way. I honestly just fell in love with the characters. Emily Wilde is a person who kind of doesn't really care what people think about her. Her research is the number one thing in her life. But throughout the book, she kind of learns to express herself in new ways. I don't know, I just really, really enjoyed Emily's character. She's a researcher, she takes her job seriously, and she doesn't take any bullshit. Let me just say, Wendell Bamblebee is an iconic character. He's apparently a little bit based on Howl from Howl's Moving Castle. And I just enjoyed the balance between the cozy vibe in general and like the cozy fun characters, a lot of witty banter, but at the same time, the fantasy story itself was so fleshed out, in my opinion, with a lot of details about fairies, a lot of details on fairy folklore, and there was still a lot of plot to go around. So I feel like this is just, for me, a perfect mix of everything for a cozy fantasy, and I would recommend this to anyone who wants to read more fantasy or more magical books, but they don't know where to begin, because I feel like this is just a book that you can just fly through. Next year, I really, really want to continue with the series. So yeah, let's move on with Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. You might have heard of the movie Howl's Moving Castle, which is a Ghibli movie, and the Ghibli movie is based off of this book. And for years, I did not know this. I found out like a few years ago, and ever since then, I've been wanting to read Howl's Moving Castle. I just never really got around to it, and then I found it at a book swap. So I was like, this is fate. I need to read this. And this did not disappoint. This got me out of a reading slump, first of all, so that's always a good sign. It's about Sophie, who is a hatter, and she gets cursed by the Witch of the Waste, and she seeks help from a wizard named Howl, who lives in a moving castle, a castle that literally moves. It's just so magical and whimsical. There's also a lot of fun banter in this book between Sophie and Howl. And Howl's character, he's so annoying, but it's so fun. He's such a child, and it's so fun to read. It's kind of like Howl from the Ghibli movie, but like kind of 100 times worse in a way. But that makes it so fun to read. While I really do love the movie as well, the movie didn't really explain a lot of the lore in the story and in the world. And I feel like this book just explained so much to me that I'd always been asking myself about. And I just got to learn more about the world in this book, about the cities. I got to know more about Howl's character. It just felt like seeing the story from a different angle. I will say the plot itself, like the story itself, is different from the movie, but the characters in general are like the same. The world is the same, and like the overall arching story is the same. But you kind of get more intel and more happenings in this book in a way. And I just loved this so much from start to finish. I devoured this. It was just such a fun, breezy read. And the most relatable thing was that Howl gets really cranky when he gets sick and he thinks that he's dying. And I really related to that. So it was just a bunch of fun, honestly. If you've watched my videos before, or if you follow me on my Bookstagram, you will know that I am a fan of Elena Ferrante, and I read 2 books of the Neapolitan series this year, number 2 and number 3. It's a quartet, so I have 1 book to go. I'm gonna read it next year. I don't want it to end. That's that. So I read the 2nd and the 3rd book this year, The Story of a New Name, and Those Who Leave and Those Who Stay is the 3rd book in the series. The Neapolitan series follows a friendship over the course of a whole lifetime, basically. The main character and the narrator is Elena, and her best friend, her brilliant friend, her toxic friend is Lena. And they have a very, very toxic but all-encompassing friendship. That's how I always put it, because I feel like some people frame it as a beautiful friendship. I wouldn't say so. I would say it's a toxic friendship between 2 people that kind of, even if they pull away over a few years, they find back to each other. So the first book is their childhood and kind of adolescence. The second book is more so adolescence until like early university years. And the third book is like motherhood, and 20s, kind of 30s. And yeah, I don't know. I never thought that I would love this series so much because I'm such a fantasy fan. I'm such a genre fan. I never thought that this series would break me as much as it has already, and I haven't even finished the series yet. The thing that makes this story so special to me is that it's just so human, and the fact that sometimes crazy things do happen in the story, like there's a lot of drama going on, but most of the time, like what really just touches my soul is Elena, so the main character, her feelings about this friendship, how she navigates this friendship and other relationships in her life, how she navigates life in general, how she goes through different periods in her life. And I just think there's something so raw and human about this story, and it truly resonates with me on so many levels, even though I absolutely do not live the same life as her. And I think there's something so beautiful about that. I cannot express enough how special this story is to me, and how I feel like it truly kind of also changed the way I view contemporary fiction. If you like raw human emotion, the good and the bad, then I recommend Wow. And that's why both of these books are on my favorites list for 2025. All of the books for me have been 5-star reads. I just, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I'd read We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, I think 2 years ago now. I really love her writing style. It's very witty and humoristic, but it is a lot of black humor. It's one of the most atmospheric books that I've ever read in my life. This is basically a haunted house story. It's very straightforward. A group of people move into a haunted house to just kind of observe the hauntings there. And our main character, wait, what was her name again? Scheiße, wie heißt sie nochmal? Wie heißt sie? Eleanor. Eleanor is also a part of this group, and she moves to the house. The real horror in the story is really psychological. We go beyond just a haunted house. It's more so the hauntings inside Eleanor's mind as well. And the way that it just interweaves the physical haunting and the psychological haunting in a way that you just kind of don't even really notice when the switch happens is so interesting, and it was so enjoyable and creepy to read. It's the perfect haunted house story for me personally. The way that you really feel like you're a part of the house as well as you're reading it, and the way that you start to feel like you're a part of Eleanor. I feel like that is the real haunting of the story. And it's just, I don't know, this was just one of the books where, like, from start to finish, I was just so hooked. And I also really enjoyed the dynamics between the characters in this book. There's a friendship between Theodora and Eleanor. They have like a very also kind of toxic friendship vibe, and I don't know, I just really enjoy toxic friendship stories for some reason, and this just also had those interesting dynamics between the characters. Honestly, the ending really got to me. Like, the story itself truly haunted me for a while there. This is one of my new favorite books. Another book, or a book series more so, that I've really loved this year, I already raved about it in another video of mine, Lockwood & Co. Yeah. Lockwood & Co. is a YA fantasy series about teenagers that go ghost hunting, and I read book 3, 4, and I'm almost done with the last book in the series. I think it's my favorite found family in a book that I've ever read. We follow Lucy, who's also basically a ghost hunter, and she works in an agency with Lockwood and George. They're all teenagers, and they're just kind of a little family. And I just, honestly, there's not much more to say than there's just a lot of action, a lot of witty banter. I love the whole lore and everything of the world. If you're just looking for a fun, kind of spooky, but like action packed YA story, I cannot recommend this enough. Last but definitely not least is the book I recently finished, recently as in I think 2 days ago. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is a story about Addie LaRue who made a pact with with a dark god, or with the devil. You don't really know. But she made a pact and she's immortal, but she will always be forgotten, meaning when she walks into a room and walks out again, everyone forgets her. So she can't hold on to any type of relationship. She can't own anything really. Like, she's basically nobody, but she lives forever, and she's been living for 300 years. And finally, she meets someone who remembers her. And this story, I'm getting like goosebumps just thinking about it. First of all, the writing is so beautiful. It's so lyrical, very poetic. If you like that kind of writing, this is for you. If you don't really like, poetic writing, then I feel like this could get repetitive for you, but I personally loved the writing style so much. I feel like this book celebrates life in such an interesting way because it's such a tragic and sad story at the end of the day, in my opinion, but at the same time, it kind of teaches you to celebrate life for what it is, whatever life has given to you in many ways. And the story itself is somehow so tragic but so beautiful and hopeful at the same time. This is one of those books where I can't really explain why it touched me so much. I feel like I have to sit on it for another month or something and really think about it, because I can't really put into words what it is about the story that made me feel so deeply when I was reading it. I gave it 5 stars just like feeling wise, because I was just so like, the story just really made me so emotional, and it kind of crushed me. But at the same time, I kind of honestly like, I'm sad about the ending. I don't know if I don't know, the ending kind of, I was just like, is this really the ending? Not because I feel like the ending is wrong. I feel like the ending wasn't wrong for the story. I understand why this was the ending. But I was just like, man, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. If you read the story, like, do you understand what I mean? Because, like, the ending, I feel like it does fit the story, but it just, yeah, this is really Addie's world and Addie's story, and we're just living in it, and we need to accept the things that happen in this book. I feel like you're either gonna love it or hate it kind of vibe with this book. I personally really loved it, and I feel like I'm gonna think about this book for a long time, and it really makes me think about my mortality and what it means to be alive, and what it means to be remembered, and what it means to be able to have relationships with people, and how really precious that is. Not to get sappy, but yeah. I feel like I've already been talking forever. I don't know if this is boring, but let's move on to my favorite movies of 2025. In January, I rewatched a lot of Ghibli movies with my family around the holiday season, and I do love almost every Ghibli movie, but one movie that I kind of rediscovered for myself as a favorite movie of mine is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. This movie is actually not a Ghibli movie in the sense that it was made before Studio Ghibli was founded. It's based on a manga that he wrote that I would really love to read someday, because I've heard that it's really good. Nausicaa is set in the future, but in a future where the world has kind of burned down because of robots, basically, and now the world is like, has gone back to prehistoric times in like some places, and there's also a very big threat, which is a forest of decay that's spreading out like wildfire, and if you breathe in the air there, you die. Watching it now, I think the movie was made in the 80s or something, so watching it now just feels so surreal, and it's just like very reminiscent of what's going on in the world right now in so many ways, and it just touched me so deeply. In a lot of Hollywood movies, when you have a strong female character, they're just strong, and then they're also kind of a pick-me, if that makes sense. And I feel like Nausicaa is just, she's a girl. She's a normal girl. And that's what I love about the movie, and the story itself is just so beautiful, heartbreaking, everything at the same time. I cannot recommend it enough. It is such a beautiful story. I'm gonna cry. Let's move on. Flow is an animated movie that was made by a very small studio with Blender, which, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a free platform. So it's very, very impressive, and I watched the movie in the cinemas and I was blown away by how much you can tell with how little. It's also a futuristic setting where the world is basically everything's underwater, and the main character is a cat. A little cute little cat. There's no talking in the whole film. We follow a bunch of animals, kind of in an Ark of Noah vibes. They board a ship and try to find land, or like try to survive basically the big flood. And I just was so impressed by how you can portray so many emotions without any words. I'm a fan of dialogue and I love writing dialogue, but I loved how you felt so much for these characters and for the story, even though they didn't talk. I love the characters. There's a capybara that's just the chillest capybara that I could ever imagine. Watching movies like that really, like, it just really inspires me because I'm like, wow, like they just did that with a blender. They just did that in a small group with a blender. As a film student, that's just so cool to me. So yeah, it was just inspiring in so many ways. I would really, really recommend checking it out if you like animated movies. Another favorite of mine, a friend of mine recommended to me, The Ugly Stepsister, is a horror film, a retelling of Cinderella. No, wait. Yes, it is. Yes, it's a horror retelling of Cinderella. So basically, we follow the story of the ugly stepsister and how she feels being around the beautiful Cinderella. And it kind of tells the story from a different perspective. And it just says a lot about modern beauty standards, even though it's not set in modern times, but it still really speaks about modern beauty standards, comparison. After going out of the cinema, I was like, what just happened? But after like letting it marinate for a while, I'm like, wow, it really got to be one of my favorite movies of 2025. It had the perfect balance between horror elements, but still kind of some funny comedic moments, and also a lot of emotions in it as well. Like, I really, really felt with the main character, and I feel like that's what also made the story and this film really special to me, because even though we had a very unhinged main character, I really felt it to my core. A vampy movie that I watched and really loved this year was What We Do in the Shadows. I didn't think that I would love this so much. It's a mockumentary about vampires that live in a shared house. It was just so funny. Like, I don't know what it is about the humor, it just got to me. And I just loved the fact that it was filmed in such a simple way, because it is like a mockumentary style, but it was so funny. I don't know. There's not much more to say. I just laughed so much. So if you love vampires and if you love kind of wonky humor, I definitely recommend this movie because it was just so much fun. I already raved about this series in another YouTube video, I think, and on my Bookstagram, Over the Garden Wall. Cannot believe I'd never watched it before. It's a short series, actually a children's series, but you can watch it in 1.5 hours. If you live in Germany, you can watch it in German on YouTube, which I did because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to watch it. Two brothers who get lost over a garden wall in a forest. It's so whimsical, magical, with a lot of themes around death as well, to be honest, but it was just executed in such a wholesome, heartwarming way, and the characters just really, you just grow to love them. It's such a cozy and felt very nostalgic, even though I'd never watched it before. I just genuinely loved the characters so much. I loved the world and everything, the setting, the music, and I loved that the story itself was so incredibly simple, and yet they kind of made the most out of it. And I think what I loved the most was how much I just felt how much work and love they put into the series, and I think that's the thing that really touched me. I've kind of been in a witchy vibe lately, and a movie that I really, really loved was The Craft. 90s vibe, dark witchy vibe. Perfect. Like, it was the perfect vibe for me because I just wanted to watch something witchy, but also I kind of wanted to watch something like dark witchy, if that makes sense. And this, it really is a very dark story. We follow the main character who moves cities, and she befriends a group of witches. It all kind of deteriorates, and it's a very dark story in some ways. But it was like the perfect 90s film. I loved all the costumes, the settings, like the dynamics between the characters. I mean, I feel like if it were to be remade like this year, I feel like the friendships between the girls would have been a bit more realistic because there was a lot of like typical high school jealousy going on, which I personally didn't really like. However, overall, I don't know, something about the film, I don't know, one of the best witchy movies I've seen in a while. My voice is literally gone, so I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this very chatty video about my favorites. If you want more content on books, movies, and also writing, then please subscribe. It would make me very happy. Let me know what your favorite book and or movie was of 2025. And yeah, I can't wait to talk to you guys next week. Bye!